Could you share some major setbacks or war scars that you've had throughout your career within leadership in the biotech space?
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to think about this question, and I have pages and pages, as anyone in biotech does. There's many setbacks. I sort of thought about a couple that may be relevant because not the setback in and of itself, but the lesson learned, at least the lessons I learned from the setback. Um, there's one specific program, for example, that I was working on where, we ran a GLP tox study. We didn't get the right doses for the GLP tox study, and the results of that GLP tox study would have told us that we had to start at an extremely low dose in human patients, and we knew that probably wasn't actually an accurate reflection of the program and of the molecule that we're looking at. So, what are your choices? Well, you can go forward and start at a low dose, but that's a really expensive way to think about things, and you're bringing a low and ineffective dose into patients. So if you want to think about that value of patients being valuable, why would you put patients on a dose that you know is not going to be effective for them? There's no chance, right? At least that was our estimation. And so that patient-driven value said, look, we're not going to do that. And that meant we had to go back and run the GLP tox study again. So now you have all these people who were involved in the company, the people who ran the study, some of whom aren't very experienced and have, oh my God, a GLP tox study didn't work. That's a disaster for the company. It's not. It means you have to rethink it. And you have other stakeholders like board members and management and so forth. And so in those situations, it was about transparent communication to everybody. Here's what happened. Here's what we did. Here's what we're going to do next. This is the impact. It does or doesn't have an impact on our timeline. It does or doesn't have an impact on our budget and so forth, and being really clear about that. And of course, the lessons learned. How are we going to avoid ever doing this again in the future? Because it wasn't something we want to do. I think the other piece on that is in that particular situation, sitting as the leader of the team, not specifically, but overseeing the team that made that call, which turned out to be an error. Ultimately the responsibility sits with me, right? And that was the other thing that was important for me to communicate to people. Look, I'm in charge. I'm responsible. I'll take the blame for this. I'll be the person who'll go front up to the board and say, hey, look, I made an error here. Right? We'll fix it. This is how we're going to fix it. And I think those are important cultural pieces because it builds the sense that we're all in this together. You're not sitting there as a leader and, hey, these guys screwed up. They should have done better. I think it's really important as a leader to be responsible when things go wrong. And when things go right, the team did it. That seems easy to do, but I think it's challenging at times. And so I think that was really important. The other lesson I will say that was in that was, to some degree, the fact that it was my fault was true very clearly because I was the one who had the experience there. We were building a new team. They didn't have a lot of experience in drug discovery, drug development. Some people did, some people didn't. And at the time that the decision was being made about the doses, I didn't think it was right. But I wanted to empower the team to make the decision. So that to me brings up one of those challenging cultural aspects, which is what is the balance between empowering your team and driving decisions based on experience, especially when things are wrong. And that sort of becomes a short-term versus long-term decision. Maybe it was actually beneficial to allow the team to make a decision, even though it turned out to be wrong, because it empowered them and they felt empowered for all of the other programs that were run subsequently that those people were involved in. And it also allowed me to take responsibility for something that didn't go well, which I hope built some credibility for me with the team that I had their back in any instance. So that I think that, again, it's step back. How do you communicate it? How do you handle it? And how does that align with the values you have, right? For me, again, around the patients and people in particular in that instance. I'd say another one, which I think was a really good lesson for me early in my biotech career, was I was working on a specific program within my team. We were really excited about it. The molecules looked really good. It had really cool data. There was a great opportunity to address an unmet need in oncology in a novel space with a novel therapy. I mean, it ticked all the boxes that I could think of for a really exciting scientific project and program and drug discovery program. And there was another program that the company was working on that I didn't think ticked a lot of those boxes. It was, in my opinion, it wasn't as exciting. It wasn't going to serve as many patients. It was an earlier stage. But the company made a decision to prioritize the other program over the one that my team was working on. which, as you can imagine, was very frustrating for me leading that team to go, well, why are we doing this? And I sort of went home for maybe a day or two, frustrated with these crazy decisions that leadership were making. And then it dawned on me, well, they've been doing this for a while. There must be something I'm missing, right? And so I had to sort of take that notion that, well, maybe I don't understand something here. And so I went and I sat down with the CSO at the time and said, look, why are we making this decision? It doesn't make sense to me. Here's how I think about the two projects scientifically. And his answer was really insightful for me, really valuable learning. He said, yeah, agree with you. Scientifically, that's absolutely right. But what you don't know is we have a large pharma partner who wants this other program. They just want to see this next piece of data, and then it's basically a done deal. And so what that reminded me of is in biotech, we're not just running scientific projects. We're building a business. And all of the projects depend upon the ability to build a successful business. And so you need to make good business decisions. They need to be founded in the scientific data, but they need to be good business decisions. So for me, I felt like that was a setback and being deprioritized. It was like, what's my opportunity? But it was an incredibly valuable lesson because I went and asked the question to say, what am I missing? What am I missing? What do I not understand? How do I learn something out of this? So I think those are key things for me. Lessons from setbacks are obviously, we learn more from failure than we do from success. That I think that can be true for sure.